There we go, we are actually recording. So hello and welcome everyone to the Budget Builds Tech Chat podcast. I think we're on episode 8 of the reboot or whatever it is, or maybe episode 7. You'll find out by the number in the title, because in all honesty I can't remember. Today we're joined with 8Megs again.
Hello.
8Megs Mark II, aka Jamie.
Hello.
Jeff.
Hi, how are you?
Owen.
Hello.
Thomas, but this time a different Thomas.
Oh shit, what up?
And Josh.
Hey-o.
There we go. So we've greeted everyone. So the first thing I actually wanted to talk about is Windows 2000. Now the reason I want to talk about Windows 2000 is because I've been using it for a week recording the new video because it's abandonware and I covered that last time, but essentially the big news behind it is, you know, it's a usable operating system you can get for free. So I've pretty much been creating a documentary style thing telling you how to get it usable and how to make it essentially one of the best free operating systems around. And even 8Megs as a Linux user will agree with me because I'm going to make him.
Yes, Windows 2000 was as stable as...
A rock.
Yeah, it satisfied me.
It satisfied you. What's it called?
Satisfied.
Actually, you know, okay, so the way I did this video is I had 2 setups, and that's the way I wanted to do things, you know, because I thought, well, if I'm going to do this video, I'm going to test it on fairly mediocre, fairly poor style setup, you know, that type of thing, and I'll test it on some overkill stuff. So I tested it on a Pentium 4, and it turned out okay, and it was a usable experience, and it was very snappy considering the specs. And I thought, oh, you know what, fuck it, I'll try it on something that's really overpowered. So I tried it on a Core 2 Duo at like 3.2 gigahertz, an SSD, and an 8800 GT. And, you know, it was surprisingly usable, but the issue is, it can't load the installer quicker than the SSD is installing itself, so you end up having to plug in and out the CD mid-install so that it can get back to installing. Well, not mid-install, but mid-setup, because otherwise it gets confused where to load files from because it thinks it's got further than it actually has. And that's the beauty of using an operating system that's 18 years old, but you get the idea, it still works. But pretty much, yeah, like, I mean, for free operating systems, it's pretty good. I mean, who here actually has paid for an operating system?
I paid for Windows Server last week.
Okay, but that's a valid thing. If you're paying for it, actually Windows 2000 Server's free, so you know, I'm just saying, go download Windows 2000 Server Edition. Let me know if it works.
Speaking of that, we still have a customer at my workplace who still has a server with a Pentium 3 in it running Windows Server 2003 to this day.
What are they actually running off the server though? What does it?
Have you ever heard of Sage? It's for paying like what do you call it? Wages and stuff.
Yeah. I've actually heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. That's what they're running on it. Just Sage because it's so old.
Okay, so
So
essentially, when this Pentium 3 dies, there's going to be a load of unhappy workers who haven't been paid, and the reason is because of this one operating system.
There's an article on the register.co.uk from a few years ago where some server managed to reach over 10 years of continuous uptime because it had been plasterboarded into a wall by mistakes and
Jesus Christ.
What was it using as cooling, or did it just, you know, sort of run on the hope that it wouldn't
It
close?
just used the wall.
It was a 386 machine with 2 giant server case fans running at half voltage.
I was going to say that wouldn't get hot at all. 386 CPUs, they weren't inherently powerful, but they didn't exactly use any power either, you know, so... Oh well, I guess you can call that efficiency. What was the server actually running, though? What software?
Some kind of netware UNIX.
Oh, of course it was Unix. It's a Unix system. Fun fact, it was the server from Jurassic Park.
Whoa.
Rumour has it that tune can't actually be synthesized on Windows due to the fact it is a Unix system. Has anyone got any opinions on this?
Technically,
this
Windows is now POSIX compliant, so technically Windows is a Unix system.
Yeah, but then again, does it have a file browser that looks that cool? I mean, how many people didn't think the file browser in that looked cool?
Oh yeah, that was actually a real file browser that came packed with SGI unit.
Oh yeah, I know. There's like a whole... I read shitloads on it. Apparently it's actually quite usable, but the problem is it's just not as usable as being able to double-click on a file. You know, because you have to go for searching through directories in a 3D environment, which isn't nice.
Like, it was basically just SGI going, look how good our GPU.
Look how good our GPUs are. We can have we can have a Unix system.
What does the Unix file system even look like? Or file.
I mean,
manager?
it's whatever you want it to look like, really. DOS.
Oh, is it
Basically,
like- Okay.
Unix uses one continuous file system for every single drive on your system. It's all in one big file system.
And that's the way it works. I mean, to be fair, at least the thing you can say about Linux is, at least from my experience, is at least with Linux, you can always find a neckbeard maintaining it. But that's the nice thing about Windows 2000. Because the Linux community likes Windows 2000, there is still a neckbeard out there supporting Windows 2000. And it works so well.
A Japanese guy called Blackwing Cat who insists on using a ThinkPad X6 for everything.
Isn't that just you?
No, I use a ThinkPad T60 for everything. Get it right.
Oh, a ThinkPad T60. That's my bad. And I use a completely different ThinkPad. No, but that is one issue I had, was trying to actually navigate the site, which people will see in the video. Me trying to fumble around with a basic comprehension of Japanese, trying to figure out what the hell I'm actually clicking on. I'm pretty sure I nearly gave the PC a virus. Actually, fun fact, I did corrupt the Windows kernel and had to reinstall midway through the video. I cocked it up so badly. Continue.
What was your experience like?
Okay, so the general gist of it, it's incredibly snappy, it supports a lot of programs, but the thing is you need to get it up to date. And to get it up to date, you have to follow a very specific set of instructions relying on updating certain components to get a modern Windows update. Once you've got a modern Windows update and Internet Explorer 6 Service Pack 1, you can actually pretty much use it like it's Windows XP. Which, although I'm saying is compatible, you know, that's pretty compatible for me considering virtually everything I use will run on Windows XP. So you get the idea. It's a very good operating system from the sense of everything you want will work on it, and you don't really have to worry so much about what it's doing because, you know that it's going to be rock solid. The only way you can cock up Windows 2000 is if you physically try and cock it up, which is what I managed to do. But once you get past that, you know, it's a pretty damn good operating system, and it's free. Like, if you just want to have a fuck around with it, you can go and download it straight off the WinWorld website.
Yeah.
Which is the nice thing.
Don't forget about Windows XP Service Pack 4, everyone.
Is that, and that's community-made support though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was made
Yeah, it is a thing.
about 2 years ago.
What's it called?
By a
That's the
guy
thing.
in Africa, I believe.
Well, that's the thing. These older operating systems are still going to get support even today. And, you know, as long as you're not an idiot when it comes to using them online, they are still relatively secure. But then again, I mean, you're most likely going to be using this for some sort of old PC project. If you actually go out of your way to use this as part of your daily system, not only have you probably got something wrong with you, you should seriously look into buying something that can support a modern operating system. Because as I'm going to say at the end of this video, yes, it's a brilliant operating system, but if you've got something like the overkill system I've got here lying next to me, you know, you may as well just go ahead and download Windows 10, even though I don't like it, but, you know, it's more practical to use and it supports more stuff. Windows 2000 is good and all, and as a lot of people have pointed out, you know, it's not about, you know, it being free that makes it so compelling. It's the fact that it's a very simple operating system that makes it good to use. In fact, I'd happily pay for Windows 2000 because it essentially is bare bones Windows. And, you know, XP is a very good operating system in the sense of it is bare bones Windows, but it's got extra stuff to it. You know, the only types of people that you'll ever hear complain about that is a Linux user that would say Windows XP was bloated. I mean, 8Megs, is Windows XP bloated?
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Is it
It
really
is.
that bloated? I mean,
It is compared to Windows 2000. It doubled the.
Oh yeah,
minimum
compared to
RAM
Windows
requirement.
2000, yeah. But Windows 2000, that's the nice thing. It's like you can choose whatever version you want from the WinWorld website. They've got a lot of selections, and I chose Service Pack 4, which is, you know, just free to download. I've got it on a disc here. My pen ran out, so it just says Windows. Well, it doesn't even say Windows. It just has a poorly drawn W on it, but that's my install disc. And you know, it uses 300 megabytes. You know, it's a very easy to use operating system, and the nice thing I like about Windows 2000 over, say, Windows 98 or ME or whatever other version of operating system or whatever you can download off WinWorld, you've got native USB support, which is a godsend.
To be fair, the Windows 98 has native USB support as well, and so does 95 Service Pack 2, just not mass storage.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Mass storage is the one thing that people are actually trying to use. Because think about it.
NT4.
NT4, believe it or not, they dropped support because they found a security hole they couldn't patch.
The actual thing that I liked about Windows 2000 was My goal was to just install the OS and use the OS completely from itself. No external aid whatsoever. So if it wasn't working, I had to get it working from within the system itself. And that's the thing. I was able to use Internet Explorer 5 to get to Google, get to oldversion.com, which still for some weird reason supports Windows 2000. And from there I was actually able to install Firefox 12. Then from Firefox 12, I downloaded Firefox 47, and this is one thing that threw me off. So when I was trying to install it, and all these programs, I got it all up to date compatibility-wise, and I wanted to try and get something to work. I wanted to think, you know what, let's get a modern browser working, let's get Discord working, let's try and get Flash games. I didn't actually get Flash games, I wasn't trying to get a virus on the system. But in other words, what I had to do was, the installer would just fail every time, because it was looking for an operating system that wasn't there, it was looking for XP. But if you get WinRAR, unzip the exe, just drag out core, and then double-click Firefox, you can run Firefox 47 and upwards. I was running Discord on a Pentium 4, like first-gen Pentium 4. You know, it was an interesting challenge. I enjoyed it overall, and it was pretty fun. And I mean, that's the nice thing about older operating systems. I mean, like, 8Megs, what's the oldest OS you use?
I used Windows 3.1 for a while.
Like, honestly, just practical usage.
I was quite young and on a slow internet connection, so I downloaded the smallest one from Windows.
Can we get an opinion from someone else that might be from a bit more, you know, civilized Ireland? Jamie, do you use old operating systems in Ireland?
Yeah, I use XP on my old retro rig. Like,
does anyone in Ireland have a modern OS? Is this just not the done thing?
Yeah,
Hey,
it's not the done thing, like, you know.
I use Debian Stretch.
Okay, Debian's somewhat modern. I mean, okay, so what OS? I use 10. I'd rather use 7, but I have to use 10 for benchmarking reasons. 8Megs uses Debian. Jamie uses Windows XP. Owen, what do you use? Owen's vanished. He's gone. My boy
Owen's
Owen. We'll never find out.
Owen.
He uses Windows
Techwin-
98 and can't reply.
Techwin's been run over by an ice cream truck in the...
Hate it when that
Not
happens.
again.
It's all the time. Thomas, what OS do you use? You probably use 10, don't you?
10, yeah.
Yeah, we all end up using 10. And Josh, what do you use? Windows 10, Windows 10, Windows 10.
10 on my PC. On my server, I use Server 2016 with VMs for 95, 98 XP, and Vista just to fuck up Vista.
The thing with Vista is there's no reason to use it, because yes, it's a pretty operating system, but anything that was good about Vista was just put into Windows 7. And Windows 7, I think we can all agree, is the last good Windows. Apart from 8Megs, who's going to tell me Windows 2000 existed. Yes, I understand, but not everyone is you.
Yep. Unfortunate, isn't it?
You shouldn't have introduced me to OpenTTD though. I was waiting on my downloads to do. So I said my goal was to get everything done within the PC. So I was on GOG downloading my games and all that to test them on Windows 2000 on the PC. And I thought, you know what would download really quickly? OpenTTD. And I was there playing OpenTTD on pretty much early 2000s hardware, and you can't get a better experience than that. It's just bloody great, isn't it? You know, really good fun.
To let everyone know, I actually use Windows 10 Home.
Sorry, Jeff. I completely missed you.
I
my
was
bad.
like, wait a minute.
Oh, then again, you do use Windows 10, which is essentially blasphemy on this Discord. Although then again, I
I'm
technically
a
use
strong advocate for Windows 10.
Well, don't worry. I have Windows XP on my old Dell.
Windows. I think the thing is, Windows 10 isn't a bad operating system. It's just all the bloat that goes with it makes it a bad operating system. And if you use LTSB or whatever it's called, it can really mess up the Windows Store and DirectX 12, which is the only things Windows 10 has going for it that is an explicit multi-GPU, which is technically part of DX12. So you get the idea.
Can we just talk about how Windows Server 2016, after 17.2.1, doesn't officially support the AMD Radeon drivers?
You're joking.
No, you can't install it after that point.
Did you try the INI file? Did that work, the INI file? Can you try that for me? Because that would be quite interesting to see if that works. Talking about Radeon, Josh wanted to bring up this topic. The first 7nm graphics card, isn't it the Radeon Instinct or something like that?
Yeah, the Instinct MI60.
I've only seen one article about it, it said this graphics card can't run Crysis, and I was just like, well, that's a personal challenge. In fact, I can read you out.
I saw an article.
It's because it's only got Linux support right now for drivers.
You could use Wine.
I saw an article. It was just like AMD beats NVIDIA for 7-nanometer GPU, but I didn't get to read the actual article, and I was like, that is some headline.
I mean, it's impressive that they beat them to, like, 7-nanometer, but it's a business-only card, and Vega is so scalable that it was sort of going to be... It was sort of already the case that we were going to see that, and NVIDIA's already got no need. They're so ahead in the graphics card section that it's sort of impossible for them to go behind, because as much as I'm loving AMD, Vega 64 is alright if you get it at the right price, and Vega 56 is very compelling right now, but other than that, the RX 580 is still incredibly overpriced. The RX 570 is coming down and somewhat decent. But, it just feels like they've really been letting people down for a little while with the graphics cards. Considering how good the 290 was and how good Polaris was to start off with, I just feel that they need to stop overvolting their cards, They use too much power.
They need to stop refreshing it.
Exactly. I think the Polaris refresh didn't help, because the RX 400 series had a good reputation. So why'd you go and ruin that by overvolting them and releasing them as a 500 series? It's the same card that now uses about 40 to 50 more watts for about 2 to 3 FPS. It doesn't help your brand image, and it makes you out to be hot and heavy. Meanwhile, I'm here wishing my Fury would have its fans on because it's bloody cold and I'm warming up with a cup of tea. It's a good card.
Right.
Bloody power efficient with an undervolt. It uses about 166 watts with my undervolt. It's
I
nice.
get enough warmth in my room from the server and the PC being stacked on top of each other.
That's the thing. See, now this is really the perfect time to say, if you want to play OpenTTD or Open Arena, why not come join the Kelium 95 community with my boy 8Megs here, who's from a native island country. Now, you may not understand these things, but if you like steam trains, if you like diesel trains, if you like electric trains, then you will like OpenTTD, and there's only one place to come play this. So come on down to OpenTTD Kelium 95 barn in southern Western Ireland, and all that kind of
down,
jazz.
y'all.
Come on down to Kelium 95's bargain barn and come log into his server.
We got plenty of fried
Of
chicken.
course, it's passworded currently.
It's currently passworded because we're playing on it, but you get the idea. It's still fun either way. This is the nice thing. I've been really enjoying a lot of older games, and you know what was one thing that really surprised me? So I bought. Let me find it. I've got it here. I've still got the case in front of me. I talk about rambling. Okay, so how many of us make videos? I mean, I make videos, Jeff makes videos, 8Megs made a Quake video once. Thomas, do you make videos?
3 times, actually.
Thomas, at all? Videos?
No, I don't.
You don't make videos. Josh, do you make videos?
I'm a washed-up streamer.
So he's a washed-up streamer. I bloody love... I miss your streams. I used to have them on while I edit, and people just like, you played Elite, and they just threw money at him. I'll just be there. I'm just like... Jesus, they just keep throwing money at this guy. I bought Serif... Okay, so I'm already a fan of the editor, Serif Movie Plus X6, despite the fact it's quite old now. I picked up Serif Movie Plus 4 from 2002. Do you want me to read you out the recommended requirements? Intel Pentium 3, or Athlon XP, recommends SSE-compatible CPU and 64 megabytes of RAM. Windows 98 SE required. So, in other words, I bought this operating... I bought this... just, test out on the Windows 2000 PC. Really good editor. Really recommend it. It's a couple of quid online, and it's for a low-end editor, it's good. What were you saying there, Jamie?
What, did that just say SSE, like no SSE2?
It just says
SSE.
it says SSE recommended.
Yep.
So, it's a good editor. It's got keyframes, multiple layers. It's 32-bit, unfortunately, but you've still got quite a lot you can do with it. You've got resample support, not that you should ever have that enabled. And to quote the review on the back, if you need a video editor, then look no further than Serif Movie Plus 4. You will not be disappointed, says Stephen Holt from Essex, UK. Says that right on the back. Oddly enough, it literally is. It's more fluent than most free editors, and it can use more cores than Kden Live. Hey!
Yeah.
I like Kden Live.
Editing on Linux.
Editing on Linux.
You can
it's
actually
bad.
you can actually use Blender for it, and Akbakuku has put a video on it.
You can do that, but is it really worth it? The same as the drug
you
talks.
can.
No.
You can actually offload your rendering to a remote server almost seamlessly.
Okay, that is actually quite useful.
Yeah,
but I can also do that with MSI Afterburner.
Box's video on like editing video on natively on Linux. Just his points is pretty valid. Like It's just not there. The support isn't there.
You know, the issue is, on Windows, I get compatibility and all this, and I get stability, and I get a wide range of programs. And then you go to OS X, which is optimized BSD, and it's a step further. The stability on most editing software on OS X is the reason most people use it, because I've had an issue on Windows, which makes me wish I had an OS X-based PC, because compared to I have an old MacBook, and it never crashes while editing, but occasionally I will get a crash on Windows because of how Windows deals with these types of tasks. Admittedly, Linux can be rock solid if you set it up right for editing, but no one does that, and in the end it just doesn't work right. And it's not that Linux is a bad operating system at all. I love using Linux, but the fact is it's not a good thing to use if you're an editor. And that's just my personal opinion, and that's a lot of people's opinion, purely because it doesn't have the support there from the community or the people that make the programs. And it's no one's fault. It's just that the developers don't care, which is technically their fault.
If you want to discover true instability while editing, try OpenShot. It's basically just a modded Kden Live. But,
I've seen OpenShot. Yep.
How many times did it crash?
Oddly enough, I was running what's it called? Elementary OS, which is essentially modified Ubuntu, and it crashed about 4 times within the period of 2 hours. So yeah,
wow, yeah, that's very good going. At one point, I was saving after each.
Oddly enough, I was only trying to get an idea of each. This was when I was actually doing a Linux video that I wish I hadn't cancelled, but you know, it became irrelevant after the release of Proton. I was in a shite mood, and I accidentally formatted it because I wasn't looking. So yeah, that video will never see the light of day. But I was a budget builds video covering Linux. In fact, it even involved my mum's laptop because my mum uses Linux. You know, that's the nice thing about Linux is you can customize it to be very simple, and you know it works. Hey, Linux, it just works. Oddly enough, that's the case if you choose the right OS. Like me, a Gentoo user.
I think Arch and Gentoo users give Linux a bad name.
Oi, I'm a Gentoo
Hannah Montana
user.
OS, best one.
Hannah Montana OS is a good OS.
It's
the
not
best
bad
one.
because it is just reskinned OpenTTD.
Admittedly, I did join what's it called? They have an IRC channel, but I joined it under the default name, and of course it joined to the OpenSUSE IRC channel, and they all thought because I was logged in with the default name Hannah, which is the default login of Hannah Montana OS, that I was an actual woman. So I had like this herd of neckbeards pursuing me, and I was just like, what do? I'm literally just using Hannah Montana OS. Oddly enough, that did feature in the Linux video, but we won't mention that.
OpenSUSE is actually popular enough with some English colleges for their computer science departments. You see, they sell support contracts.
That doesn't surprise me, oddly enough. There was a guy at the boot fair, what's it called? When I bought a PC from the boot fair, let me think. So I bought this PC from the boot fair. And he's just like, yeah, mate, best PC I've ever had. I'm telling you, this thing will run Windows 7. It's running Windows 7 right now. I get back, it's running Ubuntu from like 1998. So, you know, at least he, I don't think he knew exactly what it was running, but he meant well. And that's what matters. He meant well. You know, that's the thing. Not enough Linux users mean well. Specifically AIGMEGs.
Hey, I mean well.
You mean well. And that's the good thing, because you do mean well. Exactly.
Yeah,
let's see.
Unlike some other Linux users in our channel,
Yeah. Well, no, they do mean well as well, but they have slightly too much of an opinion on the superiority of Linux. And that's the thing. You can't call an operating system superior if it's very clearly, you know, it has its flaws. Because I'll admit, Linux is an absolute treat to use on lower-end hardware, but even then you have to make sure you can get the drivers to it. And admittedly, trying to find old ATI drivers for integrated chipsets is a pain in the arse. So if I do a cheap budget build and it's got an integrated bloody chipset graphics, do not tell me that Windows XP wasn't a good choice because Linux exists. Because I probably would have already tried it, you know?
If you want to use an old GPU on Debian-based distros like Ubuntu, you install the firmware AMD GPU.
I'm going to shoot that then.
What's it called? I mean, the AMD drivers on Linux are actually better than Windows right now. I mean,
I've got a
open source,
9600.
So, you can.
Well, I've got a 9600
ATI,
and I mean, it's okay, but the resolutions on Linux are a bit funky. They're just a bit weird.
Anything pre terascale is really just an abomination on Linux. I think we can all agree with that.
And it was like 1080p is the only resolution that is native. My monitor's native resolution, but that's the only resolution that looks okay. But then you take it down any lower, it kind of just PC just doesn't like it.
What is it I tried? I tried my old ATI Radeon X800 on Ubuntu. It was awful. It did not run nicely.
Artifacting you run into is insane.
Yep, and trying to even get some, like... You can go from driver to driver, and sometimes I did get lucky. I found one that worked with other areas, but then it would have really poor acceleration in others. There's no golden standard for old stuff of that age. But anyway, shall we actually touch on a different topic? Shall we touch on EPYC 2? Because Josh knows a bit more about this because he's into servers a lot more. All I know is 64 cores, which is, completely going to destroy whatever Intel's offering. I think it's 48 cores, but operates at the same as, I don't know, what was that big thing that blew up the nuclear reactor, puts out in 10 minutes. Whatever that's what Intel is essentially offering. Yeah, that type of thing. Anyway, Josh, tell us, what is going to be good about Zen 2 and EPYC 2 and all that jazz?
So, coming with Zen 2 is they're cutting the power use in half.
Yep, that was from the Radeon conference, I think. I saw that. Because it's either 1.25 times performance or half the power consumption, which is good.
If you think about that, it's going to smash the mobile and laptop game. Because if you think about it, they're cutting half the power. At the moment, what are the GE equivalent desktops at? They're like 35 watts, 25 watts?
Yeah, something around that. The thing with Ring Bus is unless you get really high binning, it's not an efficiently designed architecture because you're relying on each core being binned. Meanwhile, AMD can literally just think, oh, that core's binned, that core's binned, that core's binned, let's sew them all together. And that's how it works. And then in the end, the offcuts end up in the 200 GE, which is a chip I love because it's now dropping to about 30 quid. I've seen it on sale for 30 quid. A new APU for £30. Anyway, continue, Josh.
Intel better hurry up with NetBurst too.
NetBurst, beautiful architecture.
We've spotted pictures of what do you call it? EPYC 2, also known as Rome.
Yeah.
And it's got a big die in the center, which is a 14 nanometer I/O chip, and then they're calling the chips that are actually the cores chiplets around, and they've got 8 of those, and they're 7 nanometer.
Very
blocks
good.
Of 2. So.
Because you're actually involved, you do, you'll deal with servers at work, so you probably, you'll probably get more of an inside scoop than most of us, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so I've been talking about this with my boss. I was talking to him today when he got in, and we were just talking about how, this could change the server market as well, because obviously the server market is even more dire than the PC market for market share. We've got at one point AMD was at less than 1%, and now they're raking back a couple of percent. I've also found out that AMD officially now have 13% market share in desktops, which is much better than what they've ever had in the last 6 years.
Oh yeah, I think that the fact is, right now, you can't beat Ryzen for value for money. I mean, Intel's prices have gone up because the price of a Pentium with 2 cores, 4 threads, you can get a Ryzen APU with not only 4 cores, but 4 cores that can clock higher because you actually have overclocking enabled, and a Vega APU for VCE encoding. Whatever you want to use it for, it's available. And I think that's the thing. Right now, you can't beat Ryzen, because, I mean, you've just bought an R5 1600, isn't it, Josh? You've bought one?
Almost. I haven't bought it yet, because I spent money on my server instead.
Yeah, but the server's a good thing. Everyone needs a server, because I've got a video. I've got a NetBurst server, and I would like to do a video on it, because, it's sort of funny. It's a NetBurst server. The literal... it's a heater. It's a Dell heater, essentially. But, it's quite a cool design. It looks all right, and I'm pretty happy with how it'll probably turn out. So, it'll be good.
Just to touch on the new CPU from AMD. They're claiming that a single socket, their new 7 nanometer CPU, they're claiming that that's a single socket. It can now match or outperform a dual socket Intel Xeon.
That wouldn't surprise me, in all honesty. Because the nice thing is, from a data center point of view, is if you want to update your data center that's already on Generation 1 EPYC, it's going to be on the same socket. It's going to be on TR4.
It's compatible.
So you can get a 64-core TR4 socket CPU, and you can just, bung that straight in your your server, and bang, you've upgraded. You don't have to spend all this money on a new platform, getting a new chipset, and you've got access to the full PCIe lanes, which is a good thing overall. Now,
Yeah,
talking about compatibility, who wants to hear the absolute bane of my week? Now, I was using two systems for my Windows 2000 video. I was using a PGA 478 Pentium 4, 2 gigs of DDR RAM, and of course an X800 GTO. That system was rock solid and did not fail. Admittedly, I had one PGA 478 system that did crap out on me mid-video, but that was because it was a donation to the channel, and it was an example of what can go wrong of that era of parts, because there was a capacitor that controls the PS2 inputs, and it broke, and of course I didn't have the equipment around to fix it, so I just went back to my good board that I know that works, and that board was rock solid, and it's absolutely fine. But where I actually had an issue was to do with the LGA 775, because I wanted to do an overkill setup, and the overkill setup was Core 2 Duo whatever, and of course I wanted 4 gigs of RAM, and I just thought, you know what, I'll stick in 4 gigs of RAM. But of course I was going through, you know, bloody stick to stick, trying to figure out which ones were compatible, which ones work, because they will work in one system but they won't work in another, and that's the thing about 775. Your RAM compatibility can vary from board to board, and Gigabyte is awful. It's so bad. I'm going to buy an Asus board just for my bloody 775 benchmarking because of how much I hate this Gigabyte board. It's a good board, but RAM compatibility is awful. It deserves a special place in hell.
Board I have is from a HP board, and it's been troublesome.
It's
but
just
that's old school. Yeah, that's old school HP.
I mean, what's it called? As me and AightMegs said before we were even on here, you know, DDR2, it's cheap unless you want like a single rank 4 gig sticks.
4 gig, yep.
It's just impossible. Gold is cheaper than buying a stick of that RAM.
So, someone on the #ThinkPad IRC channel on Freenode bought just a shitty old ThinkPad and found two matching pair of 4 gig single rank DDR2s.
That is
Lucky
impressive.
bastard.
I mean, did you guys see about that ThinkPad that got found with the whatchamacallit BIOS on it? It had it was a prototype BIOS, and the guy was complaining, and the guy's probably lost his job because
I abused the shit out of him on the. I'm joking, I didn't, but I did talk to him in the IRC channel about it.
I do think that the guy, you know, he should have just thought, you know what, thank my lucky stars, I got this bloody brilliant, this bloody brilliant opportunity, really, to use this BIOS, get this nice system. It's rare, it's worth about 10 times what I paid for it. But no, he goes harassing the bloody dude that sent it to him, and he's probably lost his job.
To be fair, Lenovo did then give him a P50. Or P52 or whatever's the latest P series.
Yeah, you know, but to be fair, a guy lost his job over that, and realistically, that guy, you know that guy turned out to be Dickinson from Dickinson's Real Deal. And he's now homeless because of that man. Bloody Dickinson. I watched a review of a car. It was a Top Gear review. And the seats were bright orange, and the joke was that it was actually made out of bits of Dickinson from Dickinson's Real Deal. Bloody good review, that, actually.
Or if you're listening, Dickinson hates you.
Dickinson is a beautiful, beautiful man. Because Dickinson has achieved what very few men have. Which is immortality. Think about it. When was the last time you saw Dickinson and death in the same place? That's right.
I don't even know who Dickinson is.
You're onto something here, Hamish.
Google Dickinson from Dickinson's Real Deal, and then you will understand.
I will
You
understand.
need to start watching British daytime TV.
He is a bright orange man who finds cash in your attic. And that's about the general gist of Dickinson.
Donald Trump, who is actually helpful to society.
Donald Trump and Dickinson do actually have a very large similarity between their their skin colours. They're both bright orange. Although Dickinson looks more radioactive.
Well, Trump was on the sunbed today, so like, it's pretty funny seeing him on TV.
What's it called?
He'll get impeached by the now Democratic House of Representatives.
What's it called? I mean, we should probably
We should just
stray away from politics, because otherwise, next thing we know, 8megs is chanting about why we need a whatever it is state nation and all that kind of jazz.
32 counties.
We need to build a wall.
Okay, there we go. Let's end it on that. Jeff is going to build us a wall, and let's move on to. This is actually something Thomas wanted to talk about, the RTX series. So, Thomas, what is it you think about the RTX series?
anything that's not a 2080 Ti isn't really worth it, really, is it?
No.
Because like a 2070 is basically a 1080.
Yeah.
They stopped producing the 1080 Ti's now, apparently.
Yeah,
Or
but the
they're
thing
going
is,
to.
they'll rise in price and then they'll go straight back down again. Because realistically, I don't think the RTX series is going to be bad, but I do think until there's some AMD competition, NVIDIA knows they can charge these prices. We've seen it all before. It's the same as when Intel, and it's the same as when bloody Intel had the monopoly. They could charge more because they know people would have to pay for it if they wanted the performance. Yes, you can buy an AMD Vega card right now with a FreeSync monitor and get a very compelling experience, but if you want the highest frame rates, you do have to go out of your way and buy a 1080 Ti or RTX 2080 Ti to get the best experience. Admittedly, ray tracing hasn't really taken off, although I'm the only one that's done a ray tracing benchmark here on YouTube. Quake 2 is still ray traceable, please use it, everyone else on YouTube. It's actually a surprisingly comparable benchmark. It really shows how much performance you can get out of each graphics card, because it pegs you at 100% utilization, and as long as you use a predefined set of settings, I use ambient occlusion and something else to do with sky and original textures being turned on, but it looks really, really good in the end when you're done, So I'm pretty happy with how all that turns out. Anyway,
the reflections are incredible.
Oh yeah, the reflections are great, but that's the type of thing we could see from the RTX series. But unfortunately, it's been about is it 2 months now since they were officially released, and we've heard nothing. It's like the whole thing comes off as it could be the future of technology, but in all honesty, right now it seems like a bloody gimmick.
I hate to say it, but I don't think real-time ray tracing will ever be feasible.
Ray tracing, more like gay tracing. Am I right, fellas?
He genuinely went there on a podcast. Wow.
I know.
The low-hanging fruit of jokes.
I know.
You could have gone for something creative, like, why don't I ray trace? I haven't got any ray tracing jokes. I got nothing. Let's all laugh about how Gentoo's a great operating system. Hey, kids, I love Gentoo.
The community were actively hostile when someone decided to make an install.
I would be actively hostile. If you can't figure out how to use my beloved Gentoo, you shouldn't be allowed to use it. And that's just, it's not opinion, it's fact. So, that is sarcasm, by the way. Gentoo is, how would you describe Gentoo? It's sort of the real side of Linux. There's a good description.
It's the neckbeard Linux.
It's neckbeard Linux, exactly. That's what's good about it, because it sets you out from the rest. It says, hello, I know how to compile everything. And I should do a video on that for like... Continue.
I was installing it on I was installing it on a Pentium M machine with 2 gigs of RAM, right? And I went into the IRC channel, right? They were actively bragging about how Gentoo can run on a 486. And then I mentioned that I'd run out of space on my RAM disk while I was installing it. And they said, well, your machine shouldn't be running Gentoo.
There you go. See, that's the thing. If you're running something too modern, why are you out here bragging about your Gentoo usage when my real Gentoo boys, that goes out to everyone out there running it on their toaster, that they're out here running it on a Pentium 3 strapped to a potato, and you're here flashing it about on your RAM disk. They don't even have RAM. They just have to use a watch battery.
They use a spinning drum like a computer from the 50s.
Exactly. They're out there running it on something like that, and you're flashing your RAM disk. They don't have access to RAM everywhere in the world.
I even had a matching pair of DDR.
Oh, he had a matching pair. Even I don't have matching RAM, and this is 2018. I see why you didn't get on with the community. And those are some of my best boys. That's like Phil. My boy Phil, who uses Gentoo all the time. I don't actually know anyone called Phil who uses Gentoo all the time, but you get the general idea. If you don't use Gentoo, are you really a man? You should really be considering your life choices. I'm kidding. Please don't use Gentoo if you're like new to Linux.
I'd love to see you stream installing Gentoo on an original Xbox.
I would honestly love to do that stream, because I have actually got Gentoo working once or twice, I think, and it's surprisingly capable, considering it's essentially an original Xbox. But
Hamish, should you ever get around to doing that challenge?
Which
installing
challenge?
XP in 32 megabytes.
Oddly enough, I haven't, but I would like to do that. I could do that. I could easily get it done. It is possible.
I
AMEGs
will
just-
give you 10 quid on your Patreon if it is due.
Ooh. Ooh, is this a bet? Is this a bet to get Windows XP installed on 32 megabytes? I will give it a go, and I will
And
let you know.
I don't mean some stripped down version you got off some lad who insists on using a ThinkPad 701C's website. I mean the full fat home edition.
Oh no, this will be from winworld.com. This will be Windows Whistler. Exactly. I'm going to download straight up Windows Whistler. You know, the real version.
The real version.
If you don't use Windows Whistler, what are you doing with your life? Still, you know, unless you use the Windows Vista Beta, like I told that one guy in the comments section to do, and he actually thanked me for giving him a link because he was actually using the Windows Vista Beta for some reason. Never going to forget about that. Why would you?
Never.
I was being sarcastic. He said, "Hey, bro, what's the best free operating system?" I sent him a link to Windows Vista Beta saying, "This is the best." And he actually said, "Thanks, bro. Didn't know this existed. This is great." And I was just like, wow. You know,
Oh,
to actually
no.
go out of your way and install that is
I actually
dedication.
feel sorry for his PC.
well, you know, if he got it running, that's definitely dedication on his part. But anyway, what's it called? Half-Life is turning 20. That's impressive. 8Megs, what do you have to say about Half-Life turning 20? Because it was you that wanted to talk about this. Tell us all the things you love about Half-Life and why it's older than you.
I think it's I love the way it does storytelling. It's not like the second one where it's just a bit in your face. I just like how it's quite passive.
It's all going on around you. That's the thing that I can agree with you on. Half-Life 2, I know it's sort of the same idea. There's no cutscenes, but Half-Life 2 will stop you in a room. Half-Life 1 doesn't stop you in any rooms. The most you get stuck is in when you're actually in the whatchamacallit, the test chamber thing. And that's the most you actually get stuck, is on your way into the facility, and actually when you're in the test chamber, because the rest of it is done by talking to the scientists and actually overhearing conversations, and it works incredibly well as a game. And in many ways, as you said, is more advanced than Half-Life 2. Admittedly, I haven't finished Half-Life 2, I've only finished Half-Life 1, but you get the idea. I loved Half-Life 1, and I played it on an old Toshiba Tecra.
It also has more replay value because there are long sections of Half-Life 2 where you're basically just stuck in a room with Alex blabbing on about the rebellion and the Combine and all that bullshit. Whereas with Half-Life 1, you can just blow the head off the scientist who's talking and keep going.
Exactly.
So you don't get bogged down with boring shit.
And it's that type of decapitation we're really missing from modern gaming. You know, there's a distinct lack of decapitation in any of its forms.
And like, when you shoot someone with a rocket launcher in Half-Life, they go everywhere. Whereas in modern first-person shooters, they just get knocked back.
That is true. There's a distinct lack of people being physically blown up. I mean, we had this conversation last time. I mean, what game was the last one to seriously impress you with its like technical, like master, like you know, like its technical achievements? Because personally, right now for me, it's Red Dead Redemption 2 because the game is a masterpiece. But like, other than like modern games, what was the last one that was like a technical achievement to you?
Just on
Fable.
Red Dead. Fable, yeah. That was a good game.
A technical achievement? Elite Dangerous is doing really well.
Elite Dangerous is well from the terms of optimization and terms of graphics. I mean, Jesus, that game runs on everything.
Now, hear me out on this one. SpongeBob SquarePants Employee of the Month. That blew me away.
All right, and why is it good, Jeffrey? Go on, give us the lowdown on why it's good.
Well, it has 2D backgrounds and a 3D model.
Oh, they did not go there. I'm pretty sure Oddworld did that in the 90s, but we won't ruin that for anyone. To be fair, I'm really looking forward to the next Oddworld game as well, but you know, that's sort of more niche than, you know, what most of you guys are probably dealing with.
It's free if you have Nitro as well, the new and tasty remix.
Wait, is it free?
If you have Discord Nitro, yeah.
Whoa, seriously, if you got Discord Nitro, go play that. That game, I've been playing through New and Tasty a little bit in the evenings, and it's so good. The game is remastered perfectly, and it's got all the difficulty options, and you know, they didn't make it easy. They kept the same difficulty, and that's what I like. Talking about new games, this is one of the final points we got on the list before we actually begin just rambling, because, I mean, it's not like we haven't been rambling anyway, but we've got a couple of things on the list or whatever. Fable 4 is in development from Playground Games, which is something I want to talk with Jeff about. Now, Fable is probably one of my favourite games of all time, and there's a lot of clues around to suggest that Fable 4 is actually in active development with Playground Games, isn't there, Jeffrey?
Yeah, actually, I just pulled up this article. It says, "Don't expect Fable 4 news for a long time from Playground Games."
Well, I
And
mean,
it was
you wouldn't,
on-
because all we know is that they were searching for jobs for a new RPG,
Yeah.
essentially under the Fable name, because I'm pretty sure Fable is mentioned in the job description. And the thing is, Playground Games have got a good history with taking a game and then seeing what they can do to improve that. And that's why I think that it's going to be a good thing that they've actually got some free roam of what they want to do with the Fable series, provided they don't cock it up and stray too far from the original formula. Because Fable 3 is what happens when you don't, because that game's a disappointment, and I physically can't go back and play it because of how awful the game is.
I
Now,
tried. It didn't work.
it's not fun. There's no fun in the game. They got rid of anything that could have been fun, and it just doesn't work. The game looks pretty for an Xbox 360 game, don't get me wrong. But, you know, other than that, it's not particularly impressive or good or anything like that. It's just a standard mediocre RPG that ends up worse than the two previous games. What we're looking for is a mixture of Fable 1 and Fable 2, and then we have the ultimate RPG experience. Well, not RPG, but like Fable RPG experience, and that's what I'm looking for.
Don't want to put it up too high on a pedestal. Right?
Oh, I loved Fable.
The greatest technical hurdle they're going to have to clear is somehow keeping Peter Molyneux's.
Peter Molyneux, he means well, but he does tend to cock up a little bit in terms of, you know, actually making sure the games are what he says they are. Because Fable 1, he meant well with Fable 1, and you could tell he meant well with Fable 1. But the thing is with Fable 1 is it turned out well because he had so much time to try and cram in all his ideas. Fable 2 is a similar story. Fable 3, he had 2 years and tried to cram too much in while removing too much. Because when you look at it, Fable 2, he did remove some things to streamline the experience. I mean, I think we can all agree the Fable 2 combat system, if anyone's played the game, is so streamlined and it works incredibly well. But an area where they took too many steps back on, personally, was the magic. Magic in Fable 1 was such a massive thing, and then it goes to this really simplified, they're all just something that you can either shoot out of your hand or it does a force field around you. You know, it was worthless.
Just hold the button down.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it. Whereas in the arse one, you could do something like you could slow down time, turn yourself into like a big Hulk-like thing, and run away or something like that. You know, you had so much choice of how you wanted to use it, and then they simplified it so much. But the thing is, the combat was really fluid in Fable 2, and that's one area that I could appreciate that they changed. And then Fable 3 is just a bloody mess. And I just think that, you know, Playground Games might be able to salvage something good, but it won't be until, like, I reckon 2021 is where we'll hear, we'll either hear, like, about a release date or something like that, because I say give them as much time as they need. Rockstar Games is a good example of a developer who does that, because the games take a long time to make because they always release. They're the only guys I know who consistently get people out of the door who aren't COD or FIFA, you know? I mean, I managed
they would stop with Call of Duty already.
Call of Duty. Apparently, Black Ops 4 is good, though. Anyone played it? Anyone opinions?
It's mediocre at best.
People think the
Absolutely mediocre.
what's that PUBG like? PUBG like
PUBG. Fortnite. Fortnite.
Battle Royale mode. That was the one I was looking for. People
like
say the Battle Royale mode is good, but other than that, it's kind of very mediocre.
It's just...
I've seen the glitches within the game, and oh my god, that would just look funny. There's a map on Black Ops 4 where, like, if you die in a certain spot, your body just spazzes out into the map.
Yeah, that's a good thing, though.
That's classic Call of Duty.
There's a glitch in an old Halo where if you kill someone in a particular spot, they fall through the map and into the 3D skybox, so their corpse is projected across.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think I've experienced that as well. You know, actually, in terms of remasters as well, there's a lot of, like, do you remember, like, it seems to have slowed down a bit now, but do you remember, like, 2 or 3 years ago, all you actually had released was no new games. You just got remaster after remaster. Admittedly, the only remasters I've played have been New and Tasty, which is bloody brilliant and is actually, you know, like a complete overhaul. And the Master Chief Collection. The Master Chief Collection is actually really, really fun. I've enjoyed the Master Chief Collection. But other than those two, you know, it just seems a bit like a cash grab, you know?
Like, hey, we updated the graphics. Please buy it again.
Have more graphic, please. These are all the graphics.
Probably the worst one was the 2013 Tomb Raider, because when the definitive edition came out, was the remaster. That was like January 2014.
Yeah.
And so the game hadn't even, the base game hadn't even been out a year.
Yeah.
And then they were already touting like, "Oh, here's our remastered edition,"
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just stuff like that that doesn't need to happen. And that's the thing, you know, I'm really hoping, you know, well, it sounds ridiculous. I don't need remasters anymore for my older classic games I play because I got an Xbox One X, and all the games look bloody brilliant on it. Because if they're Xbox One X enhanced, they're all in 4K. Usually, if they had an uncapped frame rate, it's a locked 60. They got 4 times MSAA by standard and 16 times anisotropic filtering, and they all look great. Fable 2 looks absolutely brilliant, and a lot of classic games I grew up playing on on the Xbox 360 look absolutely brilliant on the Xbox One X, and that's what I like, is the backwards compatibility side of things. Now, I'm not much of a PlayStation guy, but you know, a lack of backwards compatibility, you know, is a bit of a shame, really, isn't it?
That's the one thing that's annoyed me about. I recently just got a PS3 off my mate, and like that's the one thing that's annoyed me about backwards compatibility. It's just like it's a slim version, and it's just like there's just none there, and the choice you have for digital downloads is just really mediocre. I mean, it's
it's not ideal.
Pretty shit. No, I'm just really disappointed with that.
Yeah, I think a large portion of the issue is, you know, Sony is a very it's a state of corporate like function, isn't it? They're a very Japanese company with what they do, and it sounds bad, but even Nintendo is guilty of it in a lot of ways. That if they fall behind in an area and it doesn't affect the profit margin, then they don't care. Look at Nintendo's online service; it's absolutely atrocious. But is it losing the money? No, so they don't care. Sony, their whatchamacallit, their actual customer, you know, interaction and their actual provision and like you know, consumer welfare is absolutely atrocious too. But do they care? No, because they're still making money. I will say Microsoft had to get their arse in gear when they started losing money on the Xbox One, and seriously, after that, it's honestly my favourite experience. But it does lack the exclusives. But I do think exclusives take time, and provided Microsoft isn't cocking around, we could see some great exclusives like Fable 4 in the future. But it's all going to depend on the next 3 to 4 years whether or not we see that, and that's just my opinion on the current state of consoles. I mean, I love what Nintendo's doing with the Switch, but you can't deny they've completely half-assed the online system.
But you can see that with the Wii, though. Like the Wii, like they were on top of their game back in 10 years ago, and then like they saw that, you know, they were overdoing the Xbox and the PS3, but then you saw that like they were like their online service then was like, oh, well, like they didn't really put a lot of effort into it, and then
it was literally just peer-to-peer networking.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
Is friend codes.
Friend codes.
When they shut it down, I was like,
why?
I was kind of like, why? Like, you know, like that could have prolonged the life of the Wii, but then it kind of just. I suppose Homebrew has kind of done that, but I kind of like looked at that. I remember like turning on the Wii after like 5 years of it being shoved in the wardrobe, and I was like, damn, like when did they shut this down? It was like 2014. I was like, that wasn't that long ago, and like you could have prolonged the life of the system so much more.
I think the thing is with the Wii.
But then seeing the Wii Mini, like
actually,
you see where the direction they were going, and they never wanted really online to be the biggest seller.
I think the thing with the Wii was a good and innovative console, and they tried to be more innovative with the Wii U, and it's a very innovative console, and it's very good. But the thing is, they tried too much, and that's the thing. They tried too much with the Wii U, and it's a brilliant thing. It's got the IR blaster to turn on your TV. It's got the screen. It's got all this, but you know, it lacks some basic functionalities. I bought one and I love it, but the thing is, I should be able to turn off the screen on the Wii U. The Wii U like controller if I want to play entirely on the TV. There should just be a button for that. It seems that they focused so much on being innovative that they forgot that the actual basics are important too. Like, I can control my TV from the actual remote, but why can't you let me turn off the remote without touching anything else if I'm just playing a game that doesn't need a second screen? You know, I don't need what's on the TV mirrored to right in front of me. It's just distracting. Let me turn that off. And unless I'm missing something, there's no official way to do that.
Believe it or not, actually, the Nintendo, I believe, shut down their online services for because of a cost increase in hosting. Like Pokemon Black 2 was only out for 3 years when they shut down the.
They shut it down that quickly.
Black 2, White 2 was
Yep.
Oddly enough, the only DS game I remember actively using online for was Dragon's Quest 9, because my internet didn't support the DS, but my neighbours did, so I like sneak over to her house because it was unprotected Wi-Fi. use the unprotected Wi-Fi, and I got a full metal slime armor thing. I can't remember. This was like 2011. Full metal slime armor. I don't know. Did any of you guys play Dragon Quest IX, or was it just me? Dragon Quest.
I never really played the DS, to be honest.
They're so good. Dragon Quest IX is a bloody... If they came out with a PC version remastered, I'd buy it instantly. So, you know, Square Enix, if you're listening, that one dude from Square Enix who watches me, you know, make it. Make it happen.
I found this article. It's on the GameSpy shutdown will end online play. So GameSpy shutdown, which caused like all Nintendo Wi-Fi connection games to like shut down with it.
Oh yeah, GameSpy was a large provider for Nintendo because I'm pretty sure they had a cost-sharing partnership or something like that.
That was what I was talking about, actually.
That's why you can't play Crisis 1 multiplayer anymore.
Yeah, it's just like something to do.
The one thing I miss about the Wii is the Mario Kart multiplayer. That was much
still-
awesome.
You can still play online. There's this homebrew anyway. Wii
Yeah,
U
I think
5.
that the nice thing about Nintendo games is they do always get a cult following, and that's the thing is the community. Like I said with older operating systems, the community will always end up supporting it, and because the community always ends up supporting it, you know you're going to be getting a good experience for years to come. But the fact is that it shouldn't be up to the community, and that's a little bit what makes it a bit unfair, because it is left to the community sometimes with Nintendo. And no, it's not a bad thing, but it's also not a good thing either that they're doing that, you know? So, that's just my personal opinion. But then again, it shouldn't be like that for any console. I mean, the original Xbox, I would love to see some more done with the original Xbox, but you know, it's just such a good console that's forever going to be like left. The PS2 is probably going to get some sort of, you know, PS2 mini sometime in the future, but whether or not we'll see like a original Xbox mini, because as stupid as it sounds, you could do it. You could do an x86 based system that could like high level emulation. I'm speaking as if you had documentation in front of you. An x86 based system with an NVIDIA based iGPU that could run original Xbox games, and you could charge $100 for it, and I would go out and buy one. Because it would be like 20 games in your system, and you could have like Fable, the Oddworld games, you could have Halo. You know, you've got some real classics there, but we'll never see it. And I just feel that, you know, I'm not a Microsoft fanboy in this situation. You know, Sony has got some amazing exclusives, but a lot of the games of that era was when Microsoft was really killing it. You know, when the PS2 was coming out with all this shovelware, Microsoft was killing it with the exclusives, and the same goes for the 360 era in the beginning. And then things sort of, you know, Microsoft lost their way, and in many ways, you know, when Fable 3 came out and then Halo 4, that was the beginning of the end for Microsoft's golden period. Their golden period was from the start of the original Xbox to near the end of the life of the 360, and from near the end of the life of the 360, I just feel that the console went downhill massively. You know, the Xbox One was downgraded in terms of power. They lost any chance of good exclusives. Games were released broken. You know, even today, PUBG has gone free, and there is no compensation for the gamers that went out and bought it. You know, what's up with that?
Whoa, it's free.
PUBG has just gone free on the Xbox One.
Fuck.
You know, isn't that really bad?
I paid like 15 for them CD keys.
Yeah, you know, it's bad.
Okay.
It's bad, and there's currently zero talks of any compensation for people that like you that went out and bought it, and that's what's unfair, because you spent your money to support the company, and you know, have you got anything out of it? No. But in the end, they essentially got a free beta period out of you, which isn't right. It's not fair, and you have essentially been made a fool out of because you're the one that spent money on it, essentially to be a test product. You know, Microsoft has been making some grand improvements with Xbox Now and all this, but you know, they can't forget that they need to be working harder. I say that for every company. I'm not keen on what Sony's doing, saying no to crossplay. You know, that's just equally as bad in my opinion.
That's
Like,
took them a
didn't they
while.
open up on that?
Yeah,
It took them a while.
just with Fortnite at the moment, but then they're going to roll out to more games eventually.
Do
Like,
you reckon Red Dead's going to support it or no?
Maybe.
I'll be interested to see if Red Dead supports it, but I for some reason I doubt it. You know, I'd love for that not to be the case, but given their record with this type of thing, I reckon it's gonna be, you know, that type of situation once again.
It's just a bit stupid though.
How powerful is the Switch relative to?
You want my
I'd say
personal
Xbox
opinion?
360.
I would say yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I'd say it's in terms of Xbox 360 levels of performance. You know, it is probably less powerful than Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 might have a slightly weaker CPU if not fully utilized, but if it's fully utilized, it's definitely better than the Switch. But the area where the Switch wins is RAM. Towards the end of the Xbox 360 and PS3's life, RAM was a real constraint, even more so on the PS3.
Yeah.
And we can't deny that when you look at titles, I mean, if anyone wants to watch the recent Digital Foundry episode about Diablo 2, was it Diablo 3 or whatever it was, you can notice the Xbox 360 and PS3, the main time they actually fall down in FPS is when there's a lot of items on screen, and those items are being loaded into RAM, and it's not so much a case of not being able to push out those pixels, it's a case of there's not enough RAM to previously hold them. Because, well, as it pre-caching them, if that makes sense, VRAM, essentially it's having to stream direct from the disk into the graphics, and that'll cause a stutter in terms of FPS. And that's where I believe the main issue was of those consoles, because I was playing some Xbox 360 GTA 5. That holds up remarkably well. And that's an example of what can be done to get around those limits. But, you know, the fact is that not many developers were willing to go out of their way to make getting around those limits, especially RAM constraints, because RAM is not something that's easy to get around. And I feel that the Switch is good, but it's around Xbox 360 power, if not slightly worse, other than RAM. RAM is the only thing it's got going for it that the Xbox 360 didn't.
On the 360, if you look at like the Saints Row series, like I mean, they were excellent games. I bought Saints Row the third about 3 years ago when I still had a 360, and like it ran fine most of the time, but there was one scene where you jump out of a helicopter and land on the roof of a skytop, and the frame rate just tanks. Like it just ultimately just flops because especially if it's on one of the like kind of the OG 360 models.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because the later ones had slightly boosted clocks and thermals, which helped. I say it helped, it was a couple of FPS here and there, same between the Xbox One and Xbox One S, that type of thing.
Yeah, but sadly my 360 died.
Oh,
Yeah.
but continue,
So
Jeff.
how much RAM does how much RAM does the Switch have?
I think it's 2 gigs. 2 gigs of RAM. I think the PS3 had 256 megabytes split between processor and graphics card. Xbox 360 had 32 megabytes ESRAM, usually used to apply 4 times MSAA in post during upscaling, hence why the Xbox 360. And Xbox One has this as well. Beautiful outputs, which is why it aged so well. Especially considering that 720p was the original target and 1080p was later on, and even then the upscaling still applies with the 4 times MSAA in post. That had half a gig of standard GDDR3 as well, though.
I was just about to say, doesn't it?
And
Did they update the RAM for the PS3 Slim?
Did they? What did they upgrade it to?
I think they did. I think they did because they said that, you know, like if you compare the PS3 models, like the original like struggles really badly to play like the later titles, but like the Slim, I haven't had any issues with the Slim in terms of like frame rates or drops or anything, in terms of like knowing when it has to load stuff in from RAM.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there is a slight upgrade.
Admittedly, I do have a PS3 now. It's a super slim, and I've enjoyed my time with the console. But my hands cannot just get on with. I can't get on with the PS3 controller. I can't for the life of me do it.
I can't.
It's so weird.
I really want to go back to a 360 controller so badly.
I mean, you guys, like, one thing I want to say, though, is I bought a Sony licensed, I think it was a company called Venom or something, they made a 360-style controller. It's a very good controller, actually. If you want to get into some PS3 exclusives but don't like the controller, there's a Sony licensed controller, very high quality, that is essentially an Xbox 360 controller for the PS3, and that's what I use. But I don't know, what's everyone's favourite controller? Personally, mine is the original Xbox controller. The size of it is perfect. Either that or the Xbox One. I love the Xbox One controller.
Xbox One controller, definitely.
Love
I've
it.
used the 360 one, but my mate has an Xbox One controller it uses it with PC. And
I've got the Xbox One controller in front of me, and you know, it just fits in your hand nicely. You've got the grips on the back, force feedback. It's all nice. It feels really sturdy. I'm like moving it about now in my hands, and it feels, you know, it feels like I can honestly snap this against my knee, and the controller would be absolutely fine. And that is build quality. And you know, I feel like the actual I feel like where controllers started to become something, you know, really, really good, though, was the Dreamcast. All the Dreamcast controller needed was another analog stick, because it only had the one analog stick. And I just felt that was, quite a bit of a limit, in terms of what you could do. Because I played Quake 3 on the Dreamcast, and, it's good, but you do lack another analog stick. You've only got a D-pad, so you're using a D-pad and an analog stick to play the game. And it's a bit strange.
I just prefer the PlayStation controller layout. I just think it feels a bit more natural.
With the thumbs down at the bottom, because I could understand that. I can use a PS3 controller, but it really messes with my hands. It might be where I messed up my wrist, but it'll actually hurt my hand after a little while using it. I just can't. My hand feels more natural with one thumb up, one thumb down, so that way I can position my hand so both thumbs are stretched out. Because otherwise, I'm stuck. I'm stuck with my both hands facing down, and the way my hands are shaped, it cramps up my right hand where I fucked up my wrist, and I can't do it. It really messes with me. And
let's be honest. We all know the superior controller layout is the N64 controller.
I do not like the N64 controller. I can use it, but
You need 3 hands for it.
Some people, the N64 controller is love it or hate it. Some people swear by it. I personally can use it, but I am not happy using it.
I've never used one, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's not great, There's not really much you can expect to be doing with it other than using it, but that's essentially what it was for, to be used. The GameCube controller is very nice. I do like a GameCube controller, but then again, it's very similar to the Xbox 360, so that's already sort of a given. And that was sort of the beginning of the 2000s where we sort of saw standardized controls across the board. Sort of nice, simple, easy to use, that kind of jazz, and everyone likes that. The only case where we don't see that is Josh here, who apparently likes to listen to Windows music as a form of controls.
Yeah, man.
Did you make that? Did you make that noise with your throat? Actually, can you do it again?
Yeah.
Can you do it again?
Sings.
Can you do it again? Open your mouth and go wing.
Hang on.
We've got a great reverb from Josh.
Beautiful. Who was it that squawked?
That was me. I was trying to do a scream, but it didn't quite work.
Just physically squawking at the
Josh should just do like remixes of Windows sounds.
remixing of Windows. That's not live on stream, please no.
That was my server crying that I clicked out of a window.
Please no, please don't click out a window. What's it called though? But no, I honestly think that we're reaching sort of an era of stagnation. I think in the next few years we're going to see something big. I reckon with Zen 2's on the horizon, we're going to see some innovation in graphics, we're going to see some innovation on CPUs, which we're seeing already right now, and within the next 3 to 5 years we're going to be seeing innovation in games, which is what we really want to see. Does everyone agree?
What I really want to see come back is I just feel like sometimes, I think Activision are kind of leading the way with this, is I know a lot of people are like, oh no, I just want to get rid of the whole campaign element of games, but I feel like some people, a lot of developers, need to go back to the kind of the OG days of what, as we were saying, Half-Life 1, of kind of storytelling, and actually have something that draws you in.
That is one of the reasons I love Rockstar games. Cool, say what you will about them. Not everyone liked the GTA 5 story. I personally loved it. But they care about the single player experience as well. And all the people that hate on GTA 5, they have to remember that, there's a publisher behind them, Take-Two, and Take-Two doesn't care about game development. Take-Two's priority is not making games, it's making money. So of course Take-Two will implement microtransactions in a Rockstar game. And that's sort of expected. GTA Online wasn't always this sort of, microtransaction-filled mess. Before that, it was an honest-to-God good experience. But, that's not always going to be the case, unfortunately.
Just be fucking grinding.
Exactly. So now you just have to end up grinding in a game like that, and it's not a good thing. But the thing is, Rockstar games, you can play them solely single player. Red Dead Redemption 2 I'm playing through right now, and honestly, I was on Twitter and there was some person complaining saying, oh yeah, I don't like that there's no fast travel. I don't like that there's no automatic this. I'm just like, the game is a hark back to older games. If you want to go somewhere, you can have a little adventure on the way. It feels like Morrowind, and it's not even that type of game. Oh, I've got to go back to base camp. Next thing I know, I'm fighting a giant big fuck-off bear while some other guy's holding up a bloody carriage on the road. Next thing, I'm swimming across a thing because my horse fell off a cliff. I'm holding up a guy to steal his horse and then I'm riding back. Each time you go somewhere is a little adventure. It's great. I love it. You know, I don't get why people are complaining about that on Twitter. You know, all I see every day is some guy saying, oh, this exists. This is wrong with the game. I can't do this automatically. I'm just like, you know what? That's what's wrong. The fact is, they're promoting a single-player experience that is a single-player experience, and you're annoyed at them for including these options. Yes, fast travel is sort of given and sort of expected in a lot of games, but, you know, I'd much rather it not be there, and we end up with a really, really bloody good single-player game, you know? Well, not multiplayer, you know what I mean? Whatever I said. Forget what I said.
What are you talking about now?
Oh, you get what I mean. In other words, Rockstar makes good games. Everyone in accord?
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I love Rockstar games.
What's it called? Apparently, though, they're making a Bully 2. Has anyone else heard that rumor? I've been told this.
No, but I want
would
it now.
love that, please.
Only play
That would
San
be like my
Andreas.
dream.
I honestly think, though, given how good Max Payne 3 was, which I personally think is a hidden gem of a game, I honestly think that, you know, it would make sense. Given that's what they did with GTA 5, you sort of had some tech... Well, they released games as borderline tech demos. Red Dead Redemption 1 and Max Payne 3 were tech demos for GTA 5. Because when you look at them, it was the combat of Max Payne 3 in the open-world environments of Red Dead Redemption that was GTA 5. So what we could see is the open-world environments of Red Dead Redemption 2 paired with the combat system of, I don't know, Bully 2 or Max Payne 4, and that could be what we're going to see from the next Rockstar game. I mean, that's entirely speculation on my part, but, you know, given their history with that style of thing, you know, it might be the case. Any opinions, or just me?
I think I would love to see a Bully 2.
I think given the Red Dead Redemption technology, they could definitely do some things with the franchise that would definitely be insane to see.
My favorite thing out of that game was the soundtracks.
Oddly enough, I hardly played Bully. You know, does it sound bad to me? I hardly played it. And then I'm going to get people...
Twice, and I was kind of just like...
What's it called? Shall I do a live stream sometime? Budget Builds plays Bully for the first time.
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
I've never even played it.
Well, you know, Jeff, we're doing it wrong. Apparently, it's the best game of all time, and we are idiots for not playing it.
Well, shit. No, I can't play.
You know, we're idiots, Jeff. We were out there playing Fable when all the kids were playing Bully. No, we are the ones in the wrong.
I can't believe this.
Yeah, exactly. We need to do something, Jeff. What are we gonna do?
really.
We're gonna play Bully. When are we gonna do it? Within the next 6 to 8 months.
Right now.
We're gonna do it right now.
Right now.
We're closing down this podcast.
Scrap
I
everything.
must ask Game Wizard if Bully runs on Proton.
I think it does run, but it's already buggy enough on Windows, so expect a lot of crashes. Anyway, that was talking about gaming. We can round off on this point. Diablo Immortal. Shittest release I've seen in a long time.
To recite what I said earlier, Clash of Clans 2.
It's so like why? Okay, it's almost like, okay, if you've got a joke, you know, if you've got like a bad release or a joke or something like that you want to like nestle into release, you know, Fallout Shelter was done well. Even Peggle 2 was done well because, you know, you had the whole Peggle 2, and then they go on to sign Decent. You know, it works.
But
It was
do you guys
just
not even
Garden
have
Warfare 1, I think, which Garden Warfare 1 wasn't that bad.
And honestly, Plants and Zombies Garden Warfare, it's I've heard of it, and I saw a lot of gameplay of it, and in a lot of ways, it looked really good graphically. It was a lot of people used it to advertise next generation of consoles in terms of graphics, because I think it was 1080p 60 FPS with a shitload of shaders, wasn't it? And it looks really good.
Yeah.
So at least
it
that
was on 360 as well, and then later on we got it to PS3.
I will have to check that out sometime because I've got it on Origin Access. So we'll do a Bully and Plants and Zombies Garden Warfare. But fellas, we have been recording this podcast for about an hour and 20 minutes now. I think it's time we began to round off. So thank you very much to 8Megs.
Thank you, Hamish.
Thank you very much to 8Megs Mark II, aka Jamie.
Thank you very much, Hamish.
Can I shout out my YouTube channel?
Yes, you can. You can shout out your YouTube channel.
My name is Jeffrey. I like channels. Thank you.
There you go. Go sub to Jeff.
Everyone download my
Link in
map.
description.
Everyone
alright?
download 8Megs map. Thank you very much to Thomas.
Cheese rubbing is on.
Thank you very much to Josh.
It's no problem. I mean,
One thing I would like to say, first of all, is that Jamie, Thomas, and Josh, of course, are all patrons of the channel, so I'd like to thank you very much for your continued support, and you make videos like this possible, partially by actually being here to record them, actually, you know, sort of making this possible, but, you know, helping out with the channel as well. And if you want to help out on Patreon, why not go donate £15 a month and get a role that means you share the name with a person who's something about Yorkshire's, Josh, all that jazz. I had a point I was going to say, but I lost it. Anyway, fellas, we'll catch you all next time. Good night from us. Toodaloo.
Good night.
We'll go to the outro. Bye.